All right, recording is in progress. Hey, everybody, it is I, Janita Spencer, and we are on Bags of Goodies, our speakers platform sponsored by Bags, being a grandparent support, where we help bring education, information, and resources to our viewing audience, be it a grandparent, a parent, or just a community neighbor, aunt, uncle, anybody want to listen and get educated, empowered. Well, this evening, I have a special guest. Ooh, honey, she's special. Honey, I'm going to let her introduce herself. She's going to tell you a little bit about what she does, why she do it. And guess what, y'all? She's a grandmama. Hey. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Miss Danielle, introduce yourself to our audience.
Good day, everyone. Janita has introduced me. Thank you. My name is Danielle Oates. I am glad to be here, glad to open my eyes and be present in the place. Who am I? Very important, right? Very passionate about whatever I do. So I am a mom. I am a grandmom. I am a sister. I am a daughter. I am a philanthropist. That's pretty much who I am. Any of those categories that you pick, you're going to always find the word P, which is passionate about what I do. I think it's really important for me to be passionate in order for people to really feel like I'm relatable, that they can talk to me. And that's kind of how I got into some of the career moves I made, which is a licensed mental health therapist. I'm a parent advocate. And as we are going through and moving through the pandemic, I was able to create a business out of what my passion is, which is advocacy and consulting solutions.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So what is this passionate business of yours?
So advocacy and consulting solutions, what we do, like I said, I am a licensed mental health therapist in the state of North Carolina. And what we actually do is provide advocacy and mental health services for all types of populations. What we specialize in, like I said, I have mental health services where I see adults and children. Advocacy services, I do parent advocacy for parents who have kids with special needs, whether it's special needs or just have general questions or concerns. I do advocacy services for the demographic of domestic violence and sexual assault survivors. And I do advocacy services for our seniors, which today is World Senior Day. Yay. So those are the list of advocacy services that I'm really passionate about. I have personal and business experiences that allow me to really navigate through challenging times that someone may be having, or maybe it's not challenging. They just have a couple questions or they just don't know. And so how I fell into this, right, is a big deal. You're wondering, asking, well, how did you get into this, right?
Yes.
So I have this innate personality of being passionate about whatever I do. But what the things that were transpiring was, for me, I was going through college and I wanted to be in law, but I didn't want to be a lawyer once I realized how many years of school you have to be in. That wasn't easy for me.
Lawyer, okay.
As a single mom, that wasn't really up the avenue for me to be the best mom I could be in managing those hours. So I'm like, well, I really am passionate about law. So how can I get some level of law degree without being a lawyer? So you have this great thing called criminal justice. So as I was going through school, getting my bachelor's for criminal justice, was taking care of my dad, who was a disabled vet, living in the same household for 13 years while being a single mom, working full-time in school full-time and a part-time job. So I'm used to juggling a lot of things.
Yes.
But what had happened was my daughter started going through some issues and concerns in school, and it became, to my knowledge, behavioral issues. Couldn't put my finger on what was really going on, and decided to get her tested.
Okay.
Once I got her tested, found out some things that she was struggling in, but still felt like the school wasn't supportive, and I couldn't put my finger on it, because at the end of the day, we do what we do now. We kind of hand it off to the school for the school to do what they do because they're the expert, right? But at the end of the day, guess who's the best advocate for your child? Yourself. you're you're also going to be the best advocate for yourself. So even though we knew that there were some things going on with my daughter, I'm like, I still felt like I wasn't getting the help. So I had learned about a federation in Boston. I guess that's the part I didn't tell. I'm from Massachusetts. Went through some parent advocacy training in Boston, where they certified and gave training certification as a parent advocate for special needs. So I had to go through an accelerated program. I had to do an internship before I was considered qualified as a parent advocate for special needs. So I'll share this with you shortly. By the time I realized there were some issues in school, and by the time I could get my daughter help, she was really in 9th, 10th grade, a couple years left. Didn't really know the signs were really there when she was in 2nd grade, but just didn't know. So got her to graduate. Great. We got you through getting you that diploma. But what was concerning to me was, okay, great, you got your daughter through school, but what about the other parents who don't have the knowledge or are struggling and don't even know where to go?
Right.
So with getting my master's in mental health counseling, I decided to shift what I need to do for myself in the community. Was, instead of focusing on people who are already in trouble after the fact, let's be proactive and try to give people the resources and knowledge to be able to face things heads on, so that there's not a struggle. Because at the end of the day, when we're talking about kids, right, they are the future.
Yes.
They're the future. Those are the future doctors, lawyers, engineers, all types of degrees and trades. So if we don't tackle this now, there's going to be a deficit later. So I thought my responsibility was, I've helped my daughter get to the diploma part, but let's help other people in the community that don't know, if your child is struggling in school, what the requirements.
I think we got to freeze right here, but Danielle, this is so good and so right on point.
Because federal law means all states, not just North Carolina, not.
Yes, we're having a little freeze, but you've said some key things, because one of the things for sometimes with grandparents who are getting their grandchildren, and a lot of times, depending on the age group, you know, the younger age group is different, but the older age group have a tendency to say the school knows everything, the school is right, whatever my grandchild is saying is not true. You know, the school wouldn't have the wrong diagnosis, or the school is not ignoring you. But I can relate, because my grandson was going through some things, and my daughter kept telling them, no, this diagnosis, what you're saying, is not right, because you're still having problems with him. And it got to the point that, fortunately for us, I knew someone who was elected to the school board. And so we took it to that next step. As you said, you have to be an advocate so your child can get what they really need to be successful. So when we took it to the school board, honey, things started rolling. We end up in the first IEP we had was just 1 hour, where everybody there told her what was going to happen, told her what was the problem, told her his behavior, told her. Now, when we got the school board involved, they sent the director of preschool to be a part of this meeting. And that meeting was scheduled for an hour. Honey, that was a 3.5-hour meeting, because the individuals that knew we were very passionate, as you said. And when we finished, my daughter had gotten outside diagnosis and outside, which was nothing to what the school had said. And today, because of that, he is doing so much better with the right diagnosis. So grandmamas, listen up, listen to Danielle, what she's saying. This is new. You're taking in your first grader, second grader, third grader, maybe even a sixth grader. And then the school is calling you, complaining, saying they had issues, had that challenge. And they're trying to tell you, grandmama, this is what's happening. Listen, investigate, ask questions, and definitely go to the IEP meeting. You can get anyone to go with you. Know that you have rights. If you're not sure you understand what's being said at the meetings, you can get someone like Danielle, or you can get someone that is an advocate. Shoot, you can get me that will go with you to these meetings and make sure. Danielle, thank you so much. I want you to
welcome.
continue, because this is awesome.
So I'm glad that you touched upon that. A lot of people may not know. So Ms. Spencer is saying IEP, and I'm like, what's an IEP? Well, an IEP is an individual education plan where they have done the testing for your child and have come up with two things. Is there a disability? Is a disability prevent them from excelling academics? So if those questions are answered yes and yes, then they figure out, okay, now we need to do, is it a 504 plan, which is less of an accommodation, or it's an IEP, which is an actual contract? It's a real contract with everything on that IEP that they say that child should be getting has to be supplied to that student. And I'll even take it a further back. When you are deciding that you want to proceed with getting the child tested, please put that in writing, and please CC someone else, so it's accountability. It's accountability that I told this person, it got lost in translation, someone got busy. No, it was sent an email. Parent has requested a full evaluation, CC. If you know the special ed department or the school counselor, just someone else that holds the school accountable, that if it didn't go to one person, they didn't get it, someone else was CC'd on that. Excellent. The other thing is that request has to be honored within a certain amount of days federally. That can't sit for 2, 3, 4 months. So it has to be started within a specific time frame. And then what that, like Miss Janita said, when you're sitting in that meeting, it'd be nice if you had a parent advocate. It'd be nice if you can't get a parent advocate, just someone there to support. At one point, I just had my mom support me. I didn't have anyone professional, but just someone with a second pair of eyes, just making sure that they're professional, and that they are someone that will be positively, you would be a gain for you for having them sit in that meeting. You can decline a meeting. Now I'll tell you this, these are nuggets that I'm giving you. If you decline a meeting, you should decline. One of the reasons you would want to decline, if all stakeholders are not there at that meeting, you decline the meeting until they are all there. It does not make sense to have that meeting and the special ed coordinator or the manager or the liaison for the department isn't there. If the child is extremely struggling in English and the English teacher is not there, the main person is that school counselor / psychologist, the person who implemented the testing is not there. That's okay. We're going to reschedule to all stakeholders who are supposed to be there, are part of that meeting. Be careful with be careful with the documentation that goes around on the IEP. Your signature, if that person is not there, you're really signing saying it's okay for that stakeholder not to be there. You don't sign if you find out the day of the meeting, people are not there. Unfortunately, I know it's kind of a headache or stressful to have to reschedule another meeting, but it's more stressful that stakeholders are not there, who has your child's best interest at heart.
Good.
So
good.
That's really important. So like I said, I continue to learn. I learned a lot, and I continue to learn a lot. Post-COVID, we know that kids are having a lot of issues and concerns. So it's really, really important. As we all know, with everything getting locked down during COVID, parents had to be full-time teachers to a certain extent, right? So we know that the job is hard. We're not here to bash teachers or school. We're here to make people aware. Let's all work together. Let's all work together.
Yeah. What is the biggest challenge that you see in your practice? That you not that everything isn't a challenge, but that it comes to you the most.
So if we're talking about the perspective of parent advocacy, is that what you're referring to, or are you talking about as a whole?
No, just as a whole, because you said you provide adult services and you provide children's services.
Say a challenge, but I feel like I'm good at what I do. But the challenge is getting people to show up. So you can request services for parent advocacy. You can say you want a mental health counselor all day, but then when it's time for that individual to do the work, that can be a little bit challenging. So for instance, if you're coming and looking for therapy to look for help, and then we have recommendations that will not impede or continue to impede daily functioning. And if that particular person is not doing it, it can be challenging. But my job is to ask why next questions, because we can't assume anything. There could be
Right.
multiple reasons why someone's not doing something. You know, if you're having a severe issue at home and you're not able to do what's being asked in session for recommendations, that's understandable. You got to pick what a person is picking to do to survive is what a person's picking to survive. So if it isn't, you can't get upset, for example, if someone doesn't show up for therapy because you don't know why they didn't show up for therapy. They could be sick. Somebody, a loved one could be sick. They have just a mental breakdown. So even though, to answer your question, what's challenging is you're as a therapist, for me, I put my heart really into it and I want people to do well and be well, but you can't force people to do that. So you got to reach people where they are. And that kind of follows along with parent advocacy. You can tell a parent all day long, give them tips, parent coaching things that you say we really need to, because here's the thing with parent advocacy. You can find out through parent advocacy that the child has actually a mental health diagnosis. But if a parent doesn't want their child, here goes the word labeled, sometimes they will refrain from following through with the evaluations or the recommendations because they're feeling like they're being labeled. And I'll give you an example of this. A lot of kids, being fully honest, are misdiagnosed with ADHD. And I see it all the time. They're misdiagnosed. They'll say because there's lack of focus, lack of concentration, not organized. That means they got ADHD. No, that does not mean they have ADHD. Do you know that trauma looks the same, has the same symptoms as ADHD? Lack of focus and concentration and organization when something's traumatic has happened to you, right? It's hard for you to focus. What about someone as common as what I see a lot of is having sleeping disturbances or sleeping disorders? If you are not sleeping well, you are not going to be able to focus or concentrate or be organized or be your best self because you're lacking sleep. So we have to be very careful about diagnosing ADHD. A lot of parents will get scared because the minute they hear the potential of that, they think medicine. Well, it doesn't always have to be about a medication at all. In order for you to know the information, you got to show up to get the information.
True. You hit something too that happens in our grandparent community that I've heard about is the ADHD diagnosis, but trauma. Most of the times, by the time the grandparent gets their grandchild, they have gone through some type of trauma that would have certain behaviors, like you said, that mirror things. But you need to show up to the appointment, because I know there are programs out there. CMARC is one that do 0 through 5. They help with getting parents and grandparents, anyone diagnosis. And if you don't show up, you don't get the information. Sometimes we get fearful that if we go, then it says there's something wrong with us as the adult, because we're fearful we won't understand. And then the people will be looking at us. But fear cannot. Fear should be fighting for yourself, fighting for your child, fighting for your grandchild. There's advocacy starts, as Danielle said, beginning of this with you, the parent, and with the grandparent. So don't be fearful. There's resources and information out there, but a lot of times you isolate yourself out of fear. You don't talk to other people. You don't talk to programs. And that's why I love BAGS being a grandparent support, because one, some of us are grandparents, some of us not, but we all love helping people. Danielle, I am so excited that you're here, because you've hit on some very strong key points. Let me ask you, do you have anything coming up where someone can get more information or can get connected with you if they wanted to? Just share what's going on with Danielle.
So advocacy and consulting solutions, we have a parent advocacy workshop that's actually coming up next month, September 16th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I mean, it's virtual. You don't have to go anywhere, but just wherever you're gonna log on to your computer and get basic information. You can be able to ask any question that you want to ask in that hour that we're doing that advocacy. That's what we're trying to do, is keep a rotation at least 4 or 5 times a year. It's just repeating that advocacy workshop so that we are giving people in the community the knowledge, what they need to do if they feel like they need the services. Like I said also as well, most of these laws are federal. So it doesn't matter. You can log on from Kansas, you can log on from Nebraska, you can log on, because the basic foundation of the things that I will be communicating and sharing are federal laws. It's not going to matter that you're in North Carolina and versus the issues in Minnesota. It's standard information that's good to know. That'll help you in whatever decisions that you need to make. It's just really giving that basic information. So like I said, we're having a workshop coming up on September 16th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is virtual. We try to do those 4 or 5 times a year. We are also starting to incorporate other workshops, conflict resolution, how to manage conflict resolution, whether it's happening in your family, whether it's happening in your workplace. I think those are important, are key. The other workshop is senior services, which I'm trying to spend a lot of time on now, because sometimes, being honest, we forget about that population a lot, and we need not to. That's how we got to be here, is through the people who came before us, so we can't forget about them. They get depressed, they have life transitions, they have their kids or their spouse telling them what to do. So we have workshops. They may have a hard time filling out paperwork. They may just need companionship, someone to just check in with them. So we definitely are looking at workshops. Compassion fatigue is if you're taking care of someone, it's very easy for you to get burnt out. And a lot of times we forget about the person who's taking care of somebody, whether they are sick or elderly or both. So those are the things that we're looking to explore and advance in a little bit more the end of 2023 into 2024. We have some women's trips that will be coming up. Stay tuned for that, as we're trying to implement and do what is needed. We know career professionals, people who are in human services, need a break. They need to be able to get away. So we are looking to in 2024 to do dinners and getaways and self-care, basically.
So where do we go to register for these upcoming workshops?
So you're going to go to Eventbrite. You go on Eventbrite and look up Parent Advocacy. It'll definitely pull up September 16th. I will share, there is a cost. The cost to me is $20. It's worth it. For the amount of information that you get. You'll have continued access to me. So if someone wants to contact me and ask a question outside of that, I can give the phone number to that. I have email and a website that someone can go on and actually explore and ask any additional questions that you have. If there's ever a need to be a consultation, whether it be mental health services, senior services, domestic violence and sexual assault services, or parent advocacy, there's always willing to do a consultation to answer whatever question you have, to figure out if we are a good fit before we move on to the next stage if needed.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll get this information from you, and I'll make sure it's posted on our Facebook group, Bags of Goodies, so you can register. Listen, $20 for a lifelong knowledge and empowerment. And oh my God, you can take this and take it and give it to someone else and give it to someone else. This could feed a whole village of parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles who are doing kinship care as well. Then oh my goodness, I got to make sure I'm on. I got to make sure I'm there. I've got to make sure I'm there. This is phenomenal. I want to say, is there anything else you say? We're near the end. Anything else you would like to share before we stop?
I would just say, don't be fearful. Don't be scared of the unknown. Get the information. We're much better as people getting the information. When we know better, we do better. Don't worry about culture, what culture you came from and what it said about mental health therapy or someone getting your business about parent advocacy. Think about the goal. The goal is for us to be healthy, productive people. And if we're responsible for young ones, we do have the responsibility for us to be making sure we're teaching and providing healthy relationships and teaching as much as possible. The biggest, I want to say the biggest thing I think of is when I'm talking about mental health services or parent apps or any of that stuff. I think of sports. And no shame, I like my sports, but we'll invest all type of money into our sports. We need to invest all types of money, time and energy into our kids.
Yes.
My daughter didn't have a lot of sports involved in, but I know the cost of just taking a child through one sport is a lot. And if we have money, time to do that, we have the money and time to make sure our kids are healthy and that they're safe and that they're going to do well, and making sure that the school walks hand in hand with the parent. Just the biological is the foster parents, it's grandparents are heavily involved typically in the kid's life. You know, what was taught to us in school, the nuclear family is the mom, dad, and legal guardians and foster parents who take a part in raising a child as well. I think we all have a part and responsibility to show up for our kids. So that's all I want to say is just come invest in your child and ask whatever questions you want to ask, and kind of follow the lead of my responsibility. And just and with my daughter graduating, my responsibility is, you know, what other child or parent can I help by giving back what was given to me?
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we also may have this information on our website on bagsgoodlife.org. Just keep your eyes out. We're posting events on there on the calendar as well. And Bags of Goody group Facebook page. Bravo, bravo, bravo. All right, everybody. Mark your calendar, September the 16th. Go on Eventbrite. You need to come to this workshop. Bye-bye now.
All right, take care. Thank you for having me.